Part 4. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 31. At this moment, Suliang felt that he had discovered something extraordinary. The two walked quickly to Ren Changsheng and Tan Kinja. Immediately, before Suliang could say anything, Qin Binjao let go of Suliang and threw herself into Tan Kinja's arms. She hugged Tan Kinja and kept rubbing her coquettishly. With this look, he seems to be very close to his master and clingy. Master, master, I haven't seen you for a long time. Have you thought about my disciple? My disciple misses master very much, and there are many things he wants to say to master. Qin Binjao changed from her usual fairy-like appearance, and instead looked like a cute girl next door, holding Tan Kinja's arm and chattering non-stop. Tan Kinja did not answer Qin Binjao, but looked at Suliang and asked, Yao, is that the person you like? Hearing this, Qin Binjao immediately blushed and lowered her head shyly, like a young girl meeting her parents with her sweetheart. But even though she was shy, Qin Binjao still smiled and showed off her sweetheart to her master. Master, don't look at Suliang's current low level of cultivation, but he was crippled by senior brother Lin Feng a few days ago. Once. In other words, his current cultivation level is what he has cultivated in the past few days. This talent is even stronger than that of senior brother Lin Feng. Moreover, Suliang's understanding is also amazing. Suliang can quickly learn the martial arts that his disciple gave him, even faster than his disciple. Seeing that her disciple was talking about Suliang, Tan Kinja shook her head and said, Let's go, Yao, let's find a place where no one is around and talk alone. Say it. Then he pulled Qin Binjao away from here. At this moment, Suliang and Ren Changsheng, the masters of the Tiandao sect, were the only ones left on the edge of the arena. Arriving in front of Ren Changsheng, Suliang saluted and said, Meet the sect master. Ren Changsheng nodded, and then he regained his dignity, losing the submissive look before. Not bad. Ren Changsheng nodded and praised, Lin Feng's talent is pretty good. In our Tiandao sect, he is unique in the mountain. Among his peers, no one can rival him except Binjao. You are the same age as Lin Feng, but you are able to defeat him. You are considered very talented. After hearing this, Suliang subconsciously said humbly, It's just a fluke that the sect master gave me the award. Ren Changsheng shook his head, Young people, young and promising, remember to be impatient and work hard, maybe you can achieve something. Follow the teachings of the patriarch. Suliang answered, feeling that his previous impression of the sect leader was correct. Sure enough, the leader of Tiandao sect is a good old man. After encouraging Suliang for a few words, Ren Changsheng left alone, leaving Suliang alone here. After waiting for a while, Qin Binjao ended her conversation with her master and came back. However, as soon as they met, Suliang saw that his fairy girlfriend's pretty face was red, her eyes were full of tears, and she felt like she was about to cry. Suliang asked hurriedly, Binjao, what's wrong with you? Fine. Qin Binjao shook her head, Suliang, let's go back. There is no need to be polite between you and me. If you have anything, you can tell me. Suliang was still worried and continued to ask. Faced with Suliang's inquiry, Qin Binjao just shook her head and said it was okay, and refused to say anything. Seeing this, Suliang stopped asking and had a guess in his mind. Could it be that Binjao was being embarrassed? Volume 1 Chapter 37 The white-haired fairy whose filial piety goes beyond the sky, asking for votes. Before Suliang could think clearly, Tan Kinja came over again and stood in front of Suliang and Qin Binjao. Facing Tan Kinja, who was as cold as an iceberg, Suliang didn't know what to say for a moment. He could only look at the beautiful woman in front of him awkwardly. But I didn't expect it. Tan Kinja spoke first instead, Tonight, You and Ya are come to my place for a banquet. After saying that, without waiting for Suliang's reaction, Tan Kinja turned around and left. Looking at Tan Kinja's leaving figure, Suliang felt strange. He didn't give himself a chance to refute. Now, he had to go anyway. Forget it, just go. Who made her his mother-in-law? He can't refuse his mother-in-law's dinner invitation, right? After returning to Qin Benjao's room, the two took a short rest, and the time soon came to evening. It's time to go to the banquet. Before leaving, Qin Benjao stood in front of Suliang, comparing many clothes on Suliang in turn. After choosing for a long time, she finally selected one. Immediately, the white-haired fairy even came closer to Suliang, stretched out her hands to smooth the wrinkles on Suliang's clothes, tied up Suliang's hair with her own hands, put on a crown, and took care of her man carefully. She looks like a considerate little wife. Being manipulated by his girlfriend, Suliang felt quite helpless. Benjao, aren't we just going to have dinner with your master? Does it need to be so grand? Qin Benjao said seriously, of course it has to be so grand. I want to show master the best side of my man. Saying these words with a serious face, Qin Benjao's beautiful eyes are full of flashes of joy and show off. This look is a bit too cute. As a result, Suliang couldn't help it immediately. He hugged Qin Benjao in his arms and took advantage of her. Yes, yes, I will definitely not embarrass my Benjao. Suliang said with a smile. Snort. Qin Benjao was suffocated in Suliang's arms and groaned, let go now, your clothes are all messed up. All right, all right. Suliang reluctantly let go and carefully looked at his girlfriend's dress. I saw. Qin Benjao is wearing a blue and white porcelain palace dress. The complex patterns printed on the clothes and the simple and elegant colors outline her slender figure and bring out her fresh and elegant temperament. It can be said that it perfectly fits her figure. On that perfect face, there is no makeup, but it is fair and pink. There is no need to make any makeup at all. She wears a simple hair accessory on her head as the finishing touch, which further enhances the pure and fresh temperament of the white-haired fairy. After admiring it for a moment, Suliang reluctantly looked away. Let's go, let's set off. The two left the fairy boudoir and soon arrived at the agreed place. However, entering the room, Suliang was surprised to find that Tan Kinja was the only one in the room. At this time, Tan Kinja no longer looked so cold compared to what she saw during the day. That beautiful face has become much softer, and her clothes and hair accessories are much more casual, which makes people feel much more lazy. But Qin Benjao was accustomed to Tan Kinja looking like this, and said with a smile, Master, here I come. Immediately, he pulled Suliang to sit down and the three of them ate together. At the beginning, the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Although Tan Kinja still didn't say much, Suliang was well prepared and could handle it. But gradually, things started to go wrong. Suliang, eat this, this is my favorite. There is also this, which can nourish the body and is of some benefit to cultivation. This soup is also very good. It tastes great. Try it, Suliang. Qin Benjao, who was full of filial piety, kept picking up food for Suliang at the dinner table. She was extremely considerate. But she completely ignored her master. Looking at the pile of food in the bowl, and looking at the slightly cold Tan Kinja beside him, he felt doubly ashamed. After all, my girlfriend has been with her master for so many years, and their relationship is extremely deep. Her current treatment should be something Tan Kinja enjoys. But as soon as he appeared, he snatched his apprentice away. No one would feel comfortable, right? Thinking of this, Suliang coughed lightly and reminded, Benjao, I've had enough, but your master hasn't eaten much yet. However, Suliang thought his reminder was obvious enough, but his girlfriend still didn't understand. Well, that's enough. Qin Benjao blinked. Sulang, you don't have to be so polite in front of master. Don't worry, master will definitely not wrong you. Eat more. Listening to his girlfriend's words, Suliang's whole body went numb. My fairy girlfriend is so filial, she is so filial. No, if this continues, the neglected mother-in-law may think what she will think. In desperation, Suliang could only point to a plate of delicious food and motion to Tan Kinja, how about you try this? But I didn't expect it. Tan Kinja's reaction was exactly the same as that of her girlfriend, just take good care of Benjao. There is no need to be restrained in front of me. Can we only say that he is worthy of being a master and a disciple? Why, your reaction is so consistent. And, you are obviously colder than my girlfriend. Listening to Tan Kinja's words, Suliang was completely numb. Fortunately, under Suliang's constant instructions, Qin Benjao finally realized what she was doing and started to take care of her master. See this. Suliang finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he probably wouldn't have angered his mother-in-law when he attended the banquet for the first time. But I didn't expect it. But at this moment, Qin Benjao took the initiative to show off her cards. I saw. Qin Benjao stood up, came to Tan Kinja's side, and put the food on the chopsticks into Tan Kinja's bowl. Master, my disciple was really just taking care of Sulang. You don't mind, right? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 32. Said. The white-haired fairy even hugged Master's arm and kept rubbing her coquettishly. Master, Master, you don't mind if someone gets close to Sulang, right? It doesn't matter. Tan Kinja said expressionlessly. But then, Qin Benjao went a step further, hugging Master's waist and leaning into Master's arms. Master, you don't think that I will abandon you just because I have a boyfriend? Master, you can't think so much. It's okay, I don't mind as a teacher. Tan Kinja remained expressionless and even ate something. Looking at his girlfriend's appearance, Suliang felt inexplicably, why does his girlfriend smell like tea? Who taught her tea art? But when I saw my girlfriend talking, she had a cute expression on her face, but she actually looked extremely innocent. Pure tea art? These two completely different temperaments created an extremely strong contrast that made Suliang feel like he couldn't stand it anymore. Then, Suliang stepped forward. Boom! A violent chestnut hit his girlfriend on the head, and the white-haired fairy covered her head with tears in her eyes. Let's go, don't be embarrassed. Then, as he spoke, he dragged his girlfriend back to his seat. Looking at her apprentice and her sweetheart playing around, Tan Kinja raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and a stunning smile flowed out inadvertently. Have to say. After the white-haired fairy made such a fuss once, the atmosphere became much more lively. It's a new month, please vote and support. Volume 1 Chapter 38, Does a Vicious Mother-in-Law Exist? The next day, Suliang and Qin Benjao, who were in the fairy's boudoir, suddenly sensed a strong wave of spiritual energy. That place. It seems that it is in the back mountain of Tiandao sect. The moment the fluctuation appeared, Suliang frowned and asked in confusion, what's going on? Qin Benjao did not have any strange reaction, but said to Suliang, in the back mountain of the sect, it should be the spiritual energy tide that has started. Or a tide? Suliang pondered this term in confusion, and after some questioning, he finally understood the current situation. The so-called spiritual energy tide is a unique place in the back mountain of Tiandao sect. The spiritual energy there is extremely rich. After the spiritual energy gathers to the extreme, it will burst out like a tide. This spiritual energy tide is very magical. When a cultivator enters it, not only will he not suffer any harm, but it will actually benefit the participants a lot. Therefore, whenever the time comes, Tiandao sect will organize disciples to enter it to experience. Certainly. The quantity of this magical resource that is opened each time is limited, so this is a benefit specially prepared by Tiandao sect for its disciples. At this moment, it is the time when the spiritual energy tide is about to start. Standing up, Qin Benjao took Suliang's hand and said, "Let's go, Suliang, let's go together." Now that Suliang is a genius certified by Tiandao sect, he naturally has a share in this spiritual energy tide. Then, after some preparations, the two set off immediately to the mountain behind the sect. When the two arrived here, they saw that many disciples were already waiting here. One day, the elders of Daozong stood in front of everyone, responsible for management and arranging the entry and exit of these geniuses. After waiting for a while, the elder glanced at everyone. After seeing the geniuses of the sect arriving, the elder said loudly, "The spiritual energy tide is turned on, and the disciples are entering one after another for the trial. The words have fallen. Then let all the geniuses line up and enter the spiritual energy tide one by one." Suliang kept observing in the queue. Every Tianjiao disciple, no matter how strong or weak, entered for a moment and then walked out. After coming out, these people were very relaxed. Looking carefully, they found that their auras were much more powerful and condensed, and even their bodies exuded a shimmering light that had been refined. It can be said that the results are remarkable. Seeing this, Suliang was relieved a lot. It seems that this so-called spiritual energy tide is not dangerous. The queue kept moving forward, and soon it was Suliang's turn. Next, Suliang. After listening to the elder's words, Suliang stepped forward and stepped in without hesitation. Ran. But he didn't expect that in other people's place, the spiritual energy tide could only be regarded as normal difficulty, but when it came to his place, the difficulty was doubled, and it was almost to hell difficulty. The moment Suliang stepped into it, the spiritual energy tide that was relatively docile before turned into a spiritual energy storm in the blink of an eye. The storm composed of spiritual energy was raging without any scruples, and the strands of spiritual energy were like blades at this moment, tearing apart everything in front of them. Being in it, even a strong person in the Xiantian realm may not be able to easily resist it. Suliang, who was involved in it, naturally encountered an unprecedented crisis. Feeling the stinging sensation of the spiritual energy on his body, Suliang continued to avoid the invasion of the spiritual energy storm. There would often be real spiritual energy blades passing by him, and dangers abounded. If it were anyone else, facing this situation, he would definitely die. But Suliang is different. I saw. In the center of the storm, Suliang remained calm and collected. The return of the dark sea to Yuan Jin. With a soft drink, Suliang unleashed the Minghai Giwen Jin. In an instant, all the violent spiritual energy around him was controlled by Suliang. Next, relying on the tide of spiritual energy that was manipulated around his body, Suliang was in a world of his own. Although his range was small, he was able to perfectly withstand the storm of spiritual energy that was constantly sweeping through him, standing firm and motionless. That's it. The spiritual energy storm gradually dissipated, and Suliang finally averted the danger. Coming out of the spiritual energy tide, Suliang was quite embarrassed at this moment. Although he was not injured, the spiritual energy storm that blew around him still caused a lot of damage to Suliang's clothes and his hair became messy. After all, it was a spiritual energy storm. Although Suliang resisted it, it also consumed a lot of real energy. Therefore, at this moment, he looked a little more weak. Seeing how embarrassed her man was, Qin Benjao walked up and asked with concern, "Suliang, are you okay?" Suliang shook his head, "It's okay, I just ran into some minor trouble." Immediately, he thought of the huge contrast between the calmness of others who emerged from the spiritual energy tide and the spiritual energy storm he encountered. It was difficult not to make Suliang think about something. So, Suliang asked curiously, Benjeo, you have participated in many spiritual energy tides, right? How stable is this spiritual energy tide? Qin Benjeo replied, the tide has always been very stable. There has never been any change since it appeared. Okay, sure. The spiritual energy tide, which has never had any problems since its appearance, happened to happen here. This is obviously because he has been tricked. Who on earth could have such hatred for me and come up with such a way to kill me? Lin Feng? He has already jumped off the cliff. Even if there is any adventure, he should not be forced to jump off the cliff yesterday and crawl back to cause trouble for him today. So, the biggest suspect is his fairy girlfriend's master, right? As for motivation, Tan Kinja must be dissatisfied with her apprentice's commitment to her. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, he only has a 5-color talent, and his cultivation level is only at the Zhang realm, but his girlfriend has a 7-color talent, and her cultivation level has reached the innate peak. No matter what aspect, he seems not worthy of his girlfriend. Certainly. Suliang also knew that he was just guessing, and he needed to confirm if he wanted to be sure. Then, Suliang asked from the side, Benjeo, what is your master's attitude towards me? But I didn't expect it. Hearing this, Qin Benjeo immediately became shy, her pretty face flushed, and she whispered, Suliang, you should have seen what I looked like after my chat with Master yesterday. Actually, it's because after Master confirmed my heart, he gave me a large dowry and planned to hold a wedding for us to finalize my lifelong event. Master must be very satisfied with Suliang. After hearing this, Suliang was completely numb. Co-author, my previous analysis was just too much thinking? My mother-in-law has no intention of dealing with me at all. On the contrary, her mother-in-law seems to be quite optimistic about me. It seems that there is no such thing as a vicious mother-in-law. But at this moment, the two of them saw Tan Kinja appearing alone and walking up to them. Master? Qin Benjeo asked happily. Tan Kinja nodded to Qin Benjeo, and then asked Suliang, have you gained anything from the spiritual energy tide? However, before Suliang could answer, an unexpected change suddenly occurred. Volume 1 Chapter 39 You actually asked me to conquer my girlfriend's master. A new simulated object is detected, and the Cao Thief Simulator is opened again. The person currently waiting to be selected, Tan Kinja, the wife of the sect leader, a cold and charming young woman with a blocked love relationship, and the founder of the Iron-Blooded Kingship. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 33. Character Attributes, Wife, Master, and Disciple. Identity Introduction. The cold and charming young woman who is in charge of the power of Tiandao section. Her power is higher than that of the sect leader. Although they are named husband and wife, they have not even slept together since they got married. She is quite powerful. Wishful love is just self-deception. You don't even have the courage to sleep in bed together. How dare you say you love her? Mission requirement, kill the incompetent patient. Do you want to bind the current object? Listening to the sudden system sound in his ears, Suliang was speechless. System, you can be a human being. It's fine if you let me be a thief, but you have to let me be a human being. Is Cao's mother-in-law okay? Is this something carbon-based organisms can do? Thinking in his mind, Suliang looked at Tan Kinja. I saw. The beautiful young woman is stunningly beautiful, graceful, and luxurious. She is a completely different type from her girlfriend, but they both have their own merits and are not inferior in the slightest. Just standing there, that hot and voluptuous figure is extremely tempting, making people unable to help but be fascinated. But unfortunately, the coldness and majestic feeling on Tan Kinja's body, which is like an eternal iceberg, make people dare not approach or touch her. It's like a queen appears. To be honest, Suliang also felt that people like Tan Kinja really made people want to conquer. After all, who doesn't want the queen to take her own shape? But the focus of this matter is Tan Kinja's identity. Tan Kinja is the wife of the sect master and the master of his girlfriend. Rounding it off, she is equivalent to her mother-in-law. If he really takes action against Tan Kinja, wouldn't that mean that he directly steals his girlfriend and the sect leader? Isn't this setting of dual Cao thieves too treasonous? Is there any personnel issue? But at this moment, Suliang suddenly remembered the spiritual energy storm from before. Now that it is confirmed that Tan Kinja is not the one who attacked him, then could it be the sect leader? After all, just after Lin Feng took action against him, the system was suddenly activated and Qin Benjiao was selected as the target of Cao's thief. According to this rule, as soon as he was cheated, the system bound Tan Kinja. And Tan Kinja's counterpart is none other than the leader of the Tiandao sect, Ren Changsheng. After some thinking, Suliang quickly came up with a guess based on the law of inversion. Most likely, there is something wrong with the sect leader. But why? He and his sect master had no grudges in the past, no grudges recently, and they had never sinned against him. Why would he target him? It couldn't be that he didn't like her? After thinking for a moment, Suliang really had no clue. He couldn't find the reason why the good old sect master targeted him. After chatting with Tan Kinja for a while, Suliang hurriedly said, "Madam, please continue. Benjiao and I have something to do, so we will leave first." "Say it." He took Qin Benjiao's hand and hurriedly said goodbye. Soon, the two of them returned to Qin Benjiao's boudoir. After closing the door, Qin Benjiao couldn't help but looked at Suliang with wide eyes, and asked with a cute expression, "Suliang, why do we have to come back in such a hurry?" After finally meeting her master, Qin Benjiao originally planned to talk to her master for a while. Suliang came back in such a hurry. Did something happen? Seeing his girlfriend's confused expression, Suliang rubbed his head and said, "It's okay. You have also experienced the tide of spiritual energy. You must be tired after waiting for me for so long, right? If you want to stay with Master for a while, I can go with you next time." Suliang had a gentle smile and spoke softly. He was extremely doting on his fairy girlfriend. "Okay." Hearing Suliang's words, Qin Benjiao nodded happily. Looking at the smile on the white-haired fairy's face, Suliang sighed, feeling quite guilty. "Suliang, Suliang, you already have a stunning girlfriend who loves you very much, how can you still miss others? Especially, that person is still his girlfriend's master, this is not allowed. Even if it is for the sake of his girlfriend, I will never be a thief again. You can never do anything sorry for Benjiao, well, absolutely not. Otherwise, not only will it destroy the harmony between husband and wife, but you will also be very sorry for your fairy girlfriend." Suliang felt a pang of heartache when he thought of his fairy girlfriend's heartbreak and despair when she found out about him and her master. No, absolutely not. However, Suliang also knew that if he wanted to do this, he would definitely not be able to do it with his current strength alone. At least, he has to deal with the person who secretly wants to trick him. Therefore, this requires you to improve your strength. Thinking of this, Suliang held Qin Benjiao in his arms, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, "Benjiao, it's still early, and I also gained a lot of insights from the previous spiritual energy tide. How about we seize the time to practice now?" Hearing this, Qin Benjiao's face immediately turned red. Lowering her head, Qin Benjiao endured her shyness and said, but it's still daytime. Cultivation takes place day and night. Suliang said with a righteous expression, besides, you also know that if this kind of understanding is not consolidated quickly, it can easily slip away. In that case, okay. Qin Benjao nodded. Immediately. The white-haired fairy was immediately pushed by her man and pinned down. The obstruction on the two people's bodies disappeared in just an instant. Suliang leaned close to Qin Benjao's ear and whispered, I recently learned a new way of cultivation. How about we practice it? In the fairy boudoir. The two people who had unlocked new postures for training were having a heated fight. I saw. On the bed, the white-haired fairy knelt facing Suliang, holding the bed with both hands, her hair scattered, her pretty face flushed, and mist flowing in her beautiful eyes. The hair is scattered, but it adds a bit of charm and beauty to the white-haired fairy. Looking at his girlfriend below him, Suliang felt a little emotional. The white-haired fairies in the past were cold and arrogant and inviolable, like flowers on the high mountains, which could be viewed from a distance but could not be desecrated. But now, the current white-haired fairy is docile and well-behaved. This change is not ordinary. And the other side. Qin Benjao felt so ashamed. Suliang, how on earth did he come up with such a shameful gesture? But when she turned around to look at her man, she saw that he was very serious and had no intention of humiliating her at all. This is for cultivation, and also for me to better protect Suliang. Thinking in her mind, she turned her head again and Qin Benjao bit her hair lightly. For Suliang, I can do anything. When the song ended, Suliang felt a little melancholy as he felt the changes in his body's cultivation. He and his girlfriend have already developed this kind of training posture, but the improvement in strength is still too slow, and it is simply not enough to deal with the unknown murderous intention. The man didn't know when he would take action again, but since he had already taken action once, the second time wouldn't be too far away. I am really short of time. At this time. Warm reminder, before the Sims are born, you can enjoy special benefits and 7-day simulation predictions. Volume 1 #Chapter 40 The second simulation, this is forcing me to become a Cao thief. Seeing this prompt, Suliang immediately started the 7-day simulation. Simulation begins. On the first day, a blood-stained girl fled to your residence in embarrassment. You were sympathetic, but you still remained vigilant. The girl had ulterior motives and cast a spell to steal her soul, but you had long since discovered it. But before you could interrogate me, the elder arrived in person and attacked you for the sake of having his soul stolen. You barely escaped, you encountered a mysterious black shadow, guess you are still alive. I go. After the simulation ended, Suliang couldn't hold himself any longer. Thank you very much, system. He himself didn't expect that he couldn't survive even one day in the simulation prediction. What's going on? I am still here stupidly improving my strength. Who would have thought that the person who wants to cheat me can't hold back for even one day and will take action against me tomorrow? In one day, even if I don't get out of bed for 12 hours, I won't be able to improve to the level where I can deal with the elders of Tiandao sect, right? How to play this? For a moment, Suliang was very confused. He started with serial murderous intentions. Who could withstand this? Well. Sighing, Suliang began to analyze the events in the simulation prediction. Everything else is pretty easy to understand. But who is this mysterious man? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 34. He was able to drive the elders to lay out such a series of killing moves, and he also knew his escape route and intercepted him in advance. Could it be? Is this mysterious man the sect leader? But why? I clearly didn't do anything, I didn't steal his wife, and I didn't offend him. Why would he target her like this? Suliang was very puzzled by the sect leader's actions. Sunset and sunset, very soon, the simulation predicts that the time for the serial killing of oneself is approaching. In the fairy boudoir, Suliang sat at the table, drinking tea and thinking about ways to break the situation. There are many ways to calculate back and forth, but none of them are really useful. And just then, Qin Benjao put on her clothes, came to Suliang and said, "Suliang, please wait for me here for a moment. I have something to discuss with Master." "Huh? Did you encounter any trouble?" Suliang asked subconsciously. Qin Benjao shook her head, her pretty face flushed slightly. "After practicing with you, my cultivation has reached the innate peak. Next, it is time to be promoted to the Grand Master realm. I'm going to find the Master and consult the Master of breaking the realm." Hearing this, Suliang thought of something, raised his eyebrows, and said, "In that case, bring Master back with you and have dinner with us. Tonight, I will cook for you two myself." "Good." Qin Benjao naturally did not doubt his presence, nodded and left the room. Suliang, on the other hand, went straight to the kitchen and started packing tonight's meal. But while he was preparing, it is getting late, and the murderous intention against Suliang is gradually approaching. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and the blood-stained girl ran into the kitchen where Suliang was preparing ingredients, regardless of whether she agreed or not, with a panicked expression. When the girl saw Suliang, she immediately came closer and said in panic, "Save me, I was being chased and had no choice but to escape to my senior brother. Please help me, save me." As she spoke, the girl's face turned pale, a little painful, her eyes filled with tears, and she looked pitiful. But in fact, she was sneering in her heart. This girl was originally arranged to come here. Knowing that Suliang was kind-hearted, she planned to arouse Suliang's sympathy by pretending to be hunted and seriously injured, and use this to get closer to Suliang. Subsequently, the purpose is to give Suliang the soul-stealing goo, and seize the soul to control him. Suliang, kindness is indeed a good thing, but when everyone knows it, it will become your flaw. Aiming at the weaknesses of your character, this time, I will definitely control you." The girl thought to herself, obviously full of confidence. But right now, Suliang, who was preparing the meal at the side, suddenly said, "Put down your poison." How did he know? Hearing this, the girl was startled and quickly wanted to defend herself. But before she could speak, Suliang said again, "Don't even think about making excuses." Seeing that she was exposed, the girl swallowed what she wanted to say. Looking at Suliang, she saw that Suliang was not looking at her at all. The girl planned to secretly cast the poison again. Maybe she could succeed. But before she could take action, Suliang said again, "I told you, keep your poison away and don't even think about attacking me secretly." Being exposed again, this time, the girl was completely numb. "He didn't even look at me, how on earth did he know what I wanted to do? This is too scary." This kind of behavior, which was completely predicted by others without even looking at it, brought the girl full of surprise and immediately shocked her. For a moment, the girl did not dare to take any further action. After a while, Suliang put down what he was doing, turned around, and asked curiously, "Are the elders and his group waiting outside?" What did you say?" This sentence scared the girl to the point of breaking into a cold sweat. It turns out that he knows everything. However, this operation between himself and the elders was top secret. How did he know about it? For a time, Suliang's power and mystery were deeply engraved in the girl's heart, making him dare not mess around at all. In just a few words, Suliang had already perfectly taken control of the incident. Boom! Putting the knife on the chopping board, Suliang turned around and looked at the girl. And you must have made double preparations for coming this time, right? In the first move, it was you who took action and used poison to seize the soul to control me. And if this plan doesn't succeed, then shouldn't the elder come forward and kill me directly? I have to say that the sect master is worthy of being the sect master. This series of killing moves, one after another, is really a sure kill situation. But when faced with Suliang's words, the girl blinked blankly. Obviously, she didn't know the whole plan and the people behind it. See this. Suliang felt a little melancholy. It seemed that there was a conspiracy behind this incident. Outside the room, the elder waited for a long time and saw no movement in the room. He frowned and said, then if Suliang can defeat Lin Feng, he must have good aptitude and understanding. I only sent her in alone, and there has been no movement. Maybe something happened. No, I have to go in and take a look. With that said, the elder opened the closed door with the palm of his hand and quickly broke in. As soon as he entered the room, he saw the shivering girl standing aside, while Suliang was still intact. It seems that the first plan has indeed failed. In this case, we can only adopt the second plan. Thinking in his mind, the elder roared decisively, "Humph, you are in the same room with a woman who uses poison. Suliang, it seems that your soul has been stolen too. If that's the case, then go die." After that, he was about to take action against Suliang. But what a pity. Suliang's delay was enough. Just when the elder took action, Qin Binjao returned with her master in time. Seeing the elder hitting Suliang, Tan Qinja snorted coldly, "Humph. The words have fallen." With a slight wave of his sleeves and robe, he struck out with an unparalleled powerful attack, instantly knocking the elder away. My girlfriend's master is so powerful? Suppressing the elders with just one hand. This is it. Suliang looked at the cold and beautiful woman whose whole body was cold. At this moment, the moonlight fell down, covering Tan Qinja with a silvery glow, making her look even colder. She looks like a goddess under the moon. Volume 1 Chapter 41 Simulation Experience Upgrade, Entering Dream State. The elder who took action was suppressed by Tan Qinja with one hand, and was severely injured with one blow. Suliang finally passed this crisis. Qin Binjao came to Suliang's side, grabbed Suliang's clothes, looked left and right, and asked with concern, "Suliang, are you okay?" Suliang patted his girlfriend on the head and said with a smile, "It's okay. Thanks to you and your wife showing up in time, the elder couldn't hurt me." Seeing that Suliang was not injured, Qin Binjao breathed a sigh of relief, but then she frowned and asked, "Suliang, what happened after I left? Why would an elder take action against you?" Hearing this, Tan Qinja on the side also looked over. Suliang didn't hide it, and directly told what happened to him. "Someone in the sect is targeting me, and that person has attacked me not once or twice." But Qin Binjao was a little confused. She had been with Suliang almost all the time in the past few days. If someone was really targeting her man, why didn't she know? Suliang explained, "The spiritual energy tide that was very stable before and never went wrong was like a tide when others entered, easily. But when I entered, the tide turned into a spiritual energy storm. If I hadn't had some means to protect myself, I might have been buried in the spiritual energy storm by now." Listening to Suliang's words, Qin Binjao immediately remembered Suliang's embarrassed appearance when he came out of the spiritual energy tide yesterday, and the strange questions he asked himself. It turns out that my man encountered such a dangerous scene? Who on earth dares to target his own man like this? For a moment, Qin Binjao couldn't help but feel angry. Then, Qin Binjao asked, "Suliang, do you know who is targeting you?" Suliang shook his head helplessly. Although he did have a guess was just a guess after all. It was not easy to say anything without confirmation. Tan Qinja said at this time, "Suliang, don't worry, I will give you an explanation for this matter." "Say it." "Mention the two attackers and leave coldly." When Tan Qinja left, Qin Binjao withdrew her gaze and looked at her man, her eyes full of worry. In any case, Sulang's strength is indeed too weak. He is only in the Zhuzang realm. Even though the younger generation thinks he is strong, in the eyes of the strong, he is nothing. Sure enough, I still need to protect myself. But, however, he may have to travel far away to seek the opportunity to become a master of breaking through the realm. This is how to do a. Forget it, you can always look for opportunities, but Sulang only has one. There is nothing wrong with him going out to look for opportunities later. At least, he has to wait until Sulang is really safe or his cultivation has grown. Thinking of this, Qin Binjao said, Sulang, don't worry, I will delay the time of going out to find the opportunity to break the realm until you are really safe. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 35. Hearing this, Suliang immediately shook his head to stop and said, No, Binjao, you'd better set off on time. The truth is to break through the master realm earlier. For me, giving up your cultivation to enter the realm is not a very rational choice. But Qin Binjao still hesitated. But Suliang directly blocked Qin Binjao's mouth. Binjao, you have to understand that only if you become stronger can you protect me better. Hearing Suliang's words, Qin Binjao felt a little moved in her heart. How could she not know that her man's words were actually all to free her from worries and concentrate on pursuing opportunities? Without thinking much, Qin Binjao hugged Suliang and buried her head in Suliang's arms. Holding his girlfriend in his arms, Suliang felt a headache. What I just said, compared with persuading my girlfriend to practice cultivation, why is it more like a declaration of soft rice? After comforting his girlfriend, Suliang called up the system, bind the character and start the simulation. Suliang was very helpless at this. His current situation was too dangerous and he urgently needed to improve his strength, and simulation was the best way. Therefore, this simulation was also Suliang's choice out of desperation. After all, being protected by others is only temporary. Only one's own strength is truly powerful. While waiting for the system to open the simulation, Suliang warned himself, Suliang, you must not make a mistake this time, you must withstand it. You already have a fairy girlfriend, how can you still be greedy for master? This is something even a scumbag can't do. While thinking about it, Suliang could feel that his eyelids were getting heavier and the scenery in front of him was getting darker. Suliang, who has had experience, knows that this is the beginning of the sim's life. But just before the sim starts, the simulation experience is upgraded and the dream state is updated. The dream state gives you a hazy sense of reality. What's the fun of watching others play? It's really better to participate yourself. Dog system, it's such an important thing, why didn't you remind me until now? Suliang Zhen is feeling numb. This dog system is too unreliable. In the previous simulation, he felt affected just by looking at it. This time I experienced it myself, even if it was just a hazy experience, it was too difficult to bear. Subconsciously, Suliang wanted to cancel the sims. But it's too late to cancel now, the sim's life has already begun. Tiandaizong, in Tan Kinja's boudoir. Although she is the wife of the sect leader, Ketun Kinja's room is extremely simple in decoration, with only a few beds, tables, and chairs, and a few bouquets of flowers placed on the table, which exudes a sense of tranquility and elegance. When you are in it, you can smell the sandalwood wafting in the air, which is refreshing. And it is in a room like this. Tan Kinja's expression was cold, and her eyes were full of indifference. In front of her, the two people she had brought back just now had died violently, but there were no wounds on their bodies, which looked very strange. Sitting on the chair, Tan Kinja concentrated on the identity of the force that attacked Suliang this time. In the Tiandao sect, a plan was made to murder a talented person whom the Tiandao sect valued, and moreover, they were able to mobilize the elders in the sect. It seems. It seems that the Tiandao sect is also restless. And just then, a figure came to the door with a heater in his hand, opened the door, and walked in. Tan Kinja turned around and recognized the identity of the person at a glance. It was Ren Changsheng, the head of the Tiandao sect with whom she was nominally married. Seeing Ren Changsheng about to walk in, Kinja said nothing but gave him a cold look as a warning. Even so, Ren Changsheng, the leader of Tiandao sect, had no choice but to take back his steps. This Ren Changsheng was not even qualified to set foot in Tan Kinja's room. A mere glance could force him to retreat, but he refused to leave immediately. Instead, he smiled compensatingly at the door. This look was really humble and pitiful. But this scene, both Tan Kinja and Ren Changsheng have become accustomed to it. Volume 1 Chapter 42 On that day, the little shot captured Yuji's heart. Ren Changsheng had an honest and good-natured face, with a simple and honest smile, and said with concern, "Kinja, it's late at night, remember to get some rest early, I'll put this heater here." After saying that, Ren Changsheng turned around and left without any further delay. Although Ren Changsheng and Tan Kinja are husband and wife, Tan Kinja has a tight relationship and has always been strong. The two have never been intimate. In fact, Ren Changsheng has not even been able to enter this door. But even so, Ren Changsheng still took care of her attentively for 10 years, and he was extremely humble, just to unlock the beauty's heart. It is not known whether Tan Kinja is aware of all this, but she is aware of her own situation. She was so tightly locked in love that it was impossible to be emotional. She had always regarded her husband, Ren Changsheng, as a relative. From this point of view, Ren Changsheng's efforts seemed destined to be useless. After sending Ren Changsheng away, Tan Kinja lay on her side in front of the bed, the coldness on her beautiful face dissipated a little, and there was a trace of laziness between her eyebrows and eyes. With her hands folded in front of her chest, the pair of proud peaks squeezed out an alluring shape, and her slender legs were stacked together like a piece of shining white jade. At this moment, Tan Kinja showed the posture of a lazy queen that was invisible to outsiders. Along with the lingering fragrance, Tan Kinja closed her eyes and fell into sleep. The sky. A beautiful lady was standing proudly on the top of the mountain. She had a slender figure and was extremely enchanting. Her beautiful face was full of coldness and indifference. Yuji's cultivation seems to be extremely high, and she is already standing proudly at the pinnacle of the world. She is surrounded by demonic energy, and her powerful aura is released without mercy, making people fearful. In front of her, there was an overwhelming number of Big Brother monks. The woman's name is Kinja. She is one of the most powerful demons in the world. She was born in the demonic world, and now she is the leader of the demonic sect. And just then, "Devil Kinja, you have been forced into a desperate situation by us, why don't you just surrender?" At this moment, the world is under siege, the big guys are gathering together, and the devil who is causing trouble in the world seems to have been forced into a desperate situation. Facing the siege of everyone, Kinja's eyes were cold and her expression was cold. "You want to kill me, just you?" The words have fallen. The atmosphere on the field instantly became tense. There seems to be an extremely strong smell of gunpowder in the air. Just a primer will detonate this world-destroying bomb. "Oh, you are about to die, and you still dare to be so harsh. Devil Kinja, today is your day of death," the big boss said, and immediately took the lead to attack Kinja. After him, countless big guys took action together. The powerful martial arts skills filled the sky, covering the sky and the sun, and were terrifying in power. Kinja took action to resist. When the two collided, they created a huge momentum, as if they were going to destroy the world. Even this towering mountain peak has been beaten to the point of collapse and is about to be destroyed. After a big battle, faced with the siege of countless bosses, Kinja couldn't resist even though she was extremely powerful. Finally, she was severely injured by these people and fell down the mountainside. Feeling the whistling wind in her ears and watching the scenery on the cliff disappear quickly, Kinja closed her eyes. Now that he was seriously injured, he fell from such a high place and was unable to use his strength to resist. Thinking about it, in this case, he would definitely die, right? Even if he was really not thrown to death, could he really withstand the next besieging people with this seriously injured body? Boom! There was a feeling of landing behind her, and a sharp pain hit her body. Kinja immediately fell into a coma. But no one expected it. At this moment, a young man appeared at the place where Kinja fell. Looking at Kinja's figure falling to the ground, Shota seemed a little surprised, but then, Shota took action directly, dragged Kinja to his thatched house, and rescued her. She didn't know how long she had been in coma, but Kinja woke up again. What she was about to face was not the overwhelming siege, but the careful care of a little Shota. But when faced with Shota's care, Kinja, who already distrusted everyone in the world, showed extreme indifference and disgust. Shota brought a bowl of medicine and said with a bright smile, "My name is Liang, sister, drink the medicine quickly, you are seriously injured." Faced with Gentile Liang's care, Kinja sneered, "It's just some rotten herbs. The treatment is not up to standard. The medicinal properties have faded and have no effect at all. How dare you give me a drink of this?" But Liang still insisted, "Sister, it's better to drink some, otherwise the injury will worsen and it will be difficult to deal with." This time, Qingya gave an indifferent look and said coldly, "Get out." With just a few words, I wanted to drive this young lady away. However, faced with Kinja who had such a bad and indifferent attitude, Shoten never gave up. She still boiled medicine every day and found ways to make good ones to replenish Kinja's body and find ways to heal her injuries. Again, when Liang was holding bowls of broth made from medicinal herbs, Kinja said, "You don't need to show off in front of me. I can't give you anything. On the contrary, you will most likely die because of me." But she didn't expect it. Liang didn't care about this, shook his head and said, "I didn't intend to get anything from eldest sister." "Then why did you save me?" "I just think that the eldest sister needs redemption." Listening to Shota's words, looking at Shota's young cheeks with an extraordinarily bright smile, Kinja shook her head. It seems that this kid is just a bad guy. And just after Liang took care of him for a few days. Once when he went out, Liang brought back a piece of news to Qingya. "Sister, there are monks in the city who are searching for traces of you, saying that they want to see you alive or dead." After hearing this, Kinja shook her head mockingly and said, "Oh, this is what it should be. I am Kinja, the current leader of the demon cult, and the most vicious person in the world. They really should be so worried about me." Kinja looked like I was super evil and said to Liang, "You find a way to send me out. From now on, I can ensure that you have no worries about food and clothing." Even so, what Kinja wanted was just not to drag down the Shota in front of her. At least, avoid him from getting into trouble because of you. Regarding Qingya's words, Liang did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 36. It was raining heavily, and in the rain curtain, there was a young figure dragging a wooden board forward. And on the wooden board was the seriously injured leader of the demon cult. In order to escape the search circle of the besieged people, Liang carried Qingya on his back, stayed up for 3 days and 3 nights, and did not even have time to eat, so he moved forward with all his strength. Liang's thin body slipped into the rain countless times, and was almost discovered by the searchers countless times. In a panic, he ignored the surroundings and scratched his body. By now, he is already scarred. But that's the case. Alyang still forced a smile and said to Kinja, "Sister, don't worry, we will be out soon." Kinja couldn't help but said, "Put me down. As for you, even if you get caught, it's okay." "How can that be done?" Alyang shook his head. "I promised to take my eldest sister away, how could I leave you to escape alone?" "But..." Kinja hesitated for a moment and then said, "You won't be able to hold on like this." "Don't worry, sister, I won't fall before I take you out," Alyang said with a smile. No matter how many times Kinja tried to dissuade him, he would not stop. Looking at the figure in front of her, who was thin and young but firm and resolute, Qingya's face moved slightly, and an emotion called touching grew from the bottom of her heart. At this moment, the devil's heart was opened. Uploading tomorrow will determine life or death in one move. I wish everyone a happy Dragon Boat Festival and give me more motivation, the subsequent plot will be more exciting. Volume 1 Chapter 43 Cold Treatment, Play, Reverse Taming. After going through many hardships and dangers, Shota Liang and the devil Kinja braved the heavy rain for 3 days and 3 nights, with no dangers along the way, and were almost discovered several times. But he finally walked out of the siege alive. After finding a place to stay, Alyang recuperated for a while and then took on the responsibility of taking care of Kinja again. Looking at Shota, who was obviously not recovering from the injuries on her body, but still insisted on taking care of herself, Kinja waved her hand, called Alyang to her side, and said, My name is Kinja, and I am the leader of the demon cult. The devil one wants to kill. Qingya said with a serious and formal expression. A sunny smile appeared on Alyang's face. My name is Alyang, but unlike my sister, I am just a little person. Different from what he said casually before, this time it was really a very formal self-introduction between the two of them. Looking at the warm smile on Zhengtai's face, Kinja felt that her dark heart seemed to be filled with rays of sunshine. The cold heart of the cold which was gradually warmed and healed by the shot in front of her. The two spent a few days together again, but during this period, Kinja always felt awkward. Alyang's smile was so bright. How could such a kind and sunny young man be with him? He is the big devil that everyone wants to kill, and he is not worthy of such an arrogant and pure Shota. Kinja has a very clear understanding of herself. She knows that she is too dark. People who have been living in darkness are not worthy of being accompanied by existence in the sun. Then, after she recovered from her injuries, Kinja took advantage of Alyang to go out to look for food, quietly got up and disappeared in front of Alyang. She wanted to throw away Alyang, or let Alyang lose himself. But even though she had made up her mind, Kinja still had complicated thoughts after leaving. For a moment, she did not leave immediately. Instead, she watched Shota from the sky looking for food in the wilderness. After finding the food and returning to the room, Alyang saw at a glance that the eldest sister he had taken care of day and night was missing. Big sister. Alyang was stunned for a moment and then shouted. But there was nothing in the empty room that could give him an answer. Did eldest sister leave, or was she in danger? Alyang murmured to himself, and then decisively dropped the food in his hand, ran out of the room, and shouted everywhere in the wilderness, looking for Kinja. And this one is looking for just a few days and nights? In the past few days, Alyang rarely ate or drank, and had very little time to sleep. Although he was searching aimlessly, he had a strong momentum of not giving up until he found it. Kinja, who was far away in the sky, looked at the young man gritting his teeth and looking for his own stubbornness, but she felt a little unbearable. Anyway, he was alone, and he was involved in this turmoil. If those who besieged him knew that Shota had helped him, they might even attack him. In this case, why don't you just take him with you? I don't know if it was because she had found a reason for herself, but Kinja made a decision in her heart. No one expected that this devil, who was always known as cold-blooded and ruthless, would actually become soft-hearted. Without any choice. Kinja had no choice but to appear in front of Liang and said, "Let's go, I'm better now and it's time to go back." From then on, this peerless devil took Shota with him. From then on, the relationship between the two took a strange direction and never looked back. Perhaps in order to undermine Shota's self-confidence, Kinja often showed her demonic cruelty in front of him. Encountered a robber on the road. Kill. No money. Rob. Being given a hard time. He wanted to kill not only the person who made things difficult for him, but also his whole family. But Kinja didn't expect that not only did Liang not care about what she had done, but she was also flirted with by Shota. Every time she showed her evil ways, Liang would follow her with a bright smile on her face. "I understand, eldest sister is not such a person. No matter what eldest sister does, she has her own reasons." Although there are no sweet words, everything in the words is unconditional trust in Kinja. Feeling this kind of trust for the first time in his life, Kinja, the peerless devil, couldn't help but feel his heart tremble when he looked at Shota's bright smile. Not only that. The seemingly cold female devil always likes to put on airs and is duplicitous in front of Shota. "If you don't move, I will threaten Liang with killing you. Is the meal late? Kill you. Didn't come back in time after going out? If you believe it, I will kill you. How dare you smile at me? Do you think I won't kill you?" Similar dialogues appear in Kinja's mouth all the time. When facing Shota, Kinja always pretends to be cold and majestic. But she didn't expect that she herself could be manipulated by a little kid. Liang didn't seem to take Qingya's threat to heart at all. He sat generously on Qingya's lap, hugged Qingya's waist, and had a sunny smile on his face. The two of them looked very intimate. In desperation, Kinja had to find a new way to deal with Liang. That is, cold treatment, leave to play. She felt that as long as she kept deliberately ignoring Liang and leaving him aside, thinking about it, he would definitely not be close to her, right? But she didn't expect that her method would still be useless. She did ignore Liang, but Zhengtai was too enthusiastic and proactive. He would often come to her, talking non-stop and doing things to serve her, which made Kinja feel quite uncomfortable. In desperation, Kinja was forced to chat with Zhengtai, and gradually, it became a habit. Even one day, Shota didn't come to her, and she felt very uncomfortable again, completely forgetting her original intention. The female devil did not realize at all that she was being tamed. With such a relationship, time flies by, and in the blink of an eye, the two have been together for 10 years. The former young lady has gradually grown into a handsome young man in white and has become more popular. Almost all the time, Liang is surrounded by all kinds of witches and witches. One day, Kinja asked, "What do you think of those witches and witches?" Liang said with a smile, "Everyone is very enthusiastic towards me and like me very much, so I also like them all." After hearing this, Kinja felt a wave of irritation in her heart, as if her whole body had been soaked in a vinegar jar. Although she didn't say anything, there was an unpleasant feeling rising in her heart. After all, both he and Liang are much older. But even so, young Liang still pestered Qingya day after day and often came to her for advice and practice. But it is obvious that Liang's qualifications are extremely poor and he is not the material for training at all. "Humph, your qualifications are so poor. I think you should stop thinking about cultivation. Even if I find a pig, I will be able to cultivate faster than you. No, Zhen Yuan shouldn't go here." Kinja said she was very disgusted, but she was still very honest and patient, teaching the young man. Special benefit for the Dragon Boat Festival, 4 chapters updated every day. Isn't it too much to vote for me as a dedicated person? Volume 1 Chapter 44 Master, can you help me take care of my man? The darkness slowly receded, Suliang opened his eyes and woke up. To him, the memories of more than 10 years in the Sim's life were like a long-distant dream. It was hazy, but the memory was profound, almost confusing him with reality. Call. Suliang rubbed his head and let out a long breath. Suddenly, he thought of the strong elder sister in his dream. What a devil, she's just a girl who lacks love but doesn't dare to approach others. Suliang smiled bitterly and shook his head. In that dream, he felt particularly pity for the elder sister who clearly lacked love, but did not dare to approach others, and even tried every means to drive away those who approached her. The scenes in the dream appeared in Suliang's mind bit by bit, and from time to time, Suliang would unconsciously show that bright and sunny smile. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 37. Suliang, who discovered this, realized that the impact of the Sims on him this time seemed to be more serious. It's just a simulated life. You can't let the simulated life affect reality. Suliang shook his head and tried to get himself out of it. And just then, this stage of simulation is over. Congratulations to the host for receiving the preliminary reward of the Sims, the gentleman hidden itch. Is this stage of simulation over? That is to say, the Sims has more than one stage this time. Listening to the sound of the system, Suliang felt a little surprised. No wonder, the dream ended abruptly as if out of chapter. It turned out that this was just a stage. And then, the 2-star Cao Thief has passed the assessment and will last for 1 month. Please ask the target to put down his elder-type restraint within 1 month and start the second stage of simulation. This strategy actually lasts a month. This is 4 times as long as Qin Binjao's time. Just judging from the demand for this strategy, Suliang knew how difficult this strategy was. In the fairy boudoir, Qin Binjao has packed up and is about to set off to look for opportunities to become a master. But on this occasion of parting, facing her own man, Qin Binjao, a fairy known for her coldness, was reluctant to leave. Suliang, I don't want to go, I can't bear to leave you. Qin Binjao seemed to have let go of Qing Leng this day, and lay in Suliang's arms, her little head rubbing against Suliang's chest, looking reluctant to let go. Be good and be obedient. It's not like we'll never see you again. Suliang touched his girlfriend's head and comforted her softly. But when I think about not seeing you for a long time, I don't want to go out again. How about, Suliang, you can go with me. Just in time, we can still avoid the crisis within the section. How can this be done? With my level of cultivation, following you will only cause you trouble. Suliang immediately shook his head. But Qin Binjao still wanted to say something, but she hugged Suliang without letting go. Seeing that his girlfriend was so clingy, Suliang directly picked up Qin Binjao and put her on his lap. Snapped. A slap on the butt, be good, stop making trouble, go early and come back early. Suliang. Qin Binjao immediately blushed and protested, I'm a fairy, how could you do this to me? But she didn't expect that her words would make Suliang feel even more accomplished. Fairy. Suliang chuckled, it's the fairy you're beating. While talking. Snapped. Suliang continued to slap him. Qin Binjao really couldn't bear the strange feeling. After just a few strokes, she felt that she had no strength. If she continued like this, she might start to gush. Then, the white-haired fairy jumped up from Suliang's lap and said coquettishly to her man, ignore you. Immediately, he decisively ran away. But when she ran out of the door, she quickly returned to her cool and dignified fairy appearance. Looking back at the room, Qin Binjao's eyes were filled with brilliance. She understood that her man did this because he didn't want to waste his time. Suliang, wait for me, I will be back soon. After whispering her promise, Qin Binjao turned and left. Before leaving, Qin Binjao went to her master. Master, I am about to leave the section, however, Sulang's strength is already a bit low, and now he is being targeted again. I am really worried. Qin Binjao said to Tan Kinja, Master, can you help me take care of Sulang? Facing his disciple's attacking gaze, Tan Kinja, who was already doting on his disciple, nodded directly and said, Don't worry, my master will definitely take good care of him and protect Sulang. There was nothing wrong on the surface, but her mind was very messy. Tan Kinja discovered that the extremely real dream she had last night actually touched the relationship she had sealed for decades. In Tan Kinja's view, it was not a dream at all, but instead, it was like a long-lost memory. And the boy in the dream. The appearance was exactly as Sulyang had imagined. What's going on? Tan Kinja whispered to herself, and then couldn't help but start investigating Sulyang. Thinking of Sulyang's face, Tan Kinja couldn't help but said to herself, how can there be such a familiar person in this world? And just when Sulyang was being investigated by Tan Kinja. But he was checking the reward he had received, a gentleman hiding his edge. A gentleman hides his edge and cultivates his swordsmanship. He hides his sharp edge in his body and nourishes it with the spirit of a gentleman. The longer it is cultivated, the more powerful it becomes. Looking at the introduction of the system, Sulyang felt a little surprised. After all, I have never experienced anything like this in my dreams. To know the reward after the last Sims, the human king chi nourishing technique, is something that has appeared in the Sims. Why is it different this time? After wondering for a moment and unable to think of an answer, Sulyang ignored it for the time being and began to understand this technique. But after a moment of reflection, Sulyang opened his eyes, looking a little helpless. He doesn't understand the art of swordsmanship and has never practiced it before. Therefore, it is difficult to understand the sharpness of the sword. It is naturally extremely difficult to practice this technique, and it is difficult to get started. If this continues, I don't know when I will be able to fully understand this magical power. No, we have to find a way to improve this technique. While thinking about it, Sulyang looked at this technique. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind, and he had a sudden idea. This technique is nourished by the aura of a gentleman, but since I don't have the aura of a gentleman, can I use the aura of a human king instead? The chi of the human king cannot be mobilized at will, but I have the returning energy of the underworld. After cultivating it, I will use the returning energy of the underworld to evolve the sword energy, hiding sharpness all over my body, and forming a new hidden edge technique. Can I also have it? Miraculous effect. Thinking of this, Sulyang Dang found an uninhabited land and started practicing. And as he kept grinding and tried hundreds of times, finally, an alternative sword-raising technique was mastered by Sulyang. After slashing out with his sword, Sulyang nodded with satisfaction as he looked at the several meter deep ravine in front of him. After my transformation, my sword-raising skills were much more powerful than before due to the energy of the King of Humans. Especially because of the characteristics of Minghai Giwan Jin, which is equivalent to being cultivated all the time, it is enough to achieve short-term and instantaneous effects. Sheathing the sword, Sulyang calmed down all his aura. At this moment, he seemed to be a gentleman, as gentle as jade, seemingly harmless to humans and animals. But his realm at this time is already at the 6th level of Zhang Zhang. Volume 1 # Chapter 45 Goodbye, the beautiful lady, it's a little different. Tiandao sect. In the past, almost no one except Sulyang visited the fairy boudoir, but today, a new visitor came. A girl with a pair of ponytails looked anxious, quite embarrassed, and looked pitiful. She came to the door of Qin Binjao's room and kept knocking on the door. Senior sister, are you there? Something happened to the section. People from the Baitian sect came to fight. None of our sect's disciples are opponents, so we have to let you take action. But after knocking for a long time, There was still no response. Senior sister, isn't she in the room? So, what should we do? The situation is urgent and there is not much time left. Where should I go to find senior sister Chin? The girl with ponytails became even more panicked. And just then, Sul Yang, who had been sitting outside rehearsing sword moves and continuing to understand the hidden edge of a gentleman, glanced at the girl and said, Benjao has been away from the sect for some time. What happened? Sul Yang heard clearly what the girl said before, and naturally knew that the girl was here to ask for help. When the girl heard the voice, she glanced towards Sul Yang and saw her eyes shining. You are, senior brother Su. Senior brother Su, without senior sister Chin, the strongest disciple in the sect is you. You must take action. Sul Yang said calmly. Don't worry, what happened? The girl didn't hide anything and directly informed Sul Yang of the matter. Turn out to be. The disciples of Tiandao sect discovered a great opportunity at the border of Tiandao sect's territory. But who knew that before the Tiandao sect disciples could take advantage of the opportunity, the Tiandao sect's rival sect, the disciples of the Badian sect, would appear, intending to take resources and leave by force, and even injured the Tiandao sect's disciples. This attitude is really too arrogant. The other disciples in the sect, Tian Xiao, were all no match for the Badian sect disciples. In desperation, the girl had no choice but to return to the sect for help. I saw. The young girl came to Sul Yang and said, Senior brother Su, senior sister Chin is not here. The only one who can help my Tiandao sect disciples is you. Please help senior brother Su. Hearing what the girl said, Sul Yang frowned and was a little worried that there was something wrong with this. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 38. After all, he was being targeted by big shots in the sect, and with Tan Kinja watching in the sect, he might not dare to take action, but as long as he left Tiandao sect, no one could stop him. Thinking of this, Sul Yang was not going to agree to this. But right now, Sul Yang, don't worry, just agree. A voice message rang in Sul Yang's ears. That magnetic voice immediately made Sul Yang understand that the person transmitting the voice was Tan Kinja. Since Tan Kinja said so, Sul Yang nodded, okay, you and I will go take a look. The two of them walked forward and soon arrived at the place where the conflict broke out. When the two arrived, there was already a conflict between the two parties. The disciples of the Badian sect knocked the disciples of the Tiandao sect to the ground with a few blows, and said arrogantly, Humph, the Tiandao sect is nothing more than that, and they are not worthy of being our enemy, the Badian section. As weak as you are, you don't deserve this opportunity. Facing the condescending humiliation from the Badian sect, all the Tiandao sect disciples felt extremely humiliated. But losing is losing. In the world of cultivation, being weak is the original sin. They don't know how to refute these people who defeated Tianzong. Just when the humiliation in everyone's hearts reached its peak, a figure appeared beside everyone. The disciples looked over, and when they saw the man's face clearly, hope immediately arose in their hearts. Senior brother Su. One of the disciples shouted in surprise. It's senior brother Su who's here. It's definitely stable. How could these Badian sect disciples be the opponents of senior brother Su? After all, even senior brother Lin Feng, who is so powerful and invincible among his peers, is no match for senior brother Su. After helping the disciples of Tiandao sect up, Sul Yang looked at the disciples of Badian sect and asked calmly, are you the ones who injured my disciples of Tiandao sect? While talking, Sul Yang kept observing the disciples of Badian sect and Tiandao sect. Well, just like what the girl described, what happened here until now has been a normal conflict. It seems that there is no special danger. After seeing Sul Yang, the leader of the Badian sect sneered, oh, are you the Sul Yang of the Tiandao sect? I heard that you found a good backer and became a pretty boy. Tisk, tisk, your cultivation must have come from eating soft food, right? Relying on a woman to practice cultivation, I have to say, you are really a disgrace to us monks. For a monk like you, I can kill you with just one hand. This disciple of the Badian sect keeps provoking, and his target is Sul Yang. Stop talking nonsense. Sul Yang shook his head. You have to pay some price for hurting my Tiandao sect disciple. Just what I wanted. The Badian sect disciple sneered again and again, and then suddenly took action. Sul Yang naturally used his methods to get into hands with this disciple of Badian sect. But as soon as the two of them fought, Sul Yang realized something was wrong. The information that girl just gave him was not accurate at all. The girl told herself that the enemy was at the 5th level of Zozang, but now it seems that this disciple is not at the 5th level of Zozang, he is clearly at the peak level of Zozang. Is he hiding his strength? It seems that the people behind the scenes have advanced their targeting of me. Seeing the disciples of Badian sect displaying their cultivation at the peak of Zozang, all the disciples of Tiandao sect were almost suffocated. In their impression, senior brother Su is only at the 4th level of building and hiding. This disciple of the Badian sect must be a powerful enemy of senior brother Su. Seeing Sul Yang barely holding on under this disciple's attack, all the disciples felt that Sul Yang was bound to be defeated. However, at this moment, everyone suddenly heard the sound of a sword. Immediately, Sul Yang caught him off guard with his hidden edge, and suddenly slashed out with his sword, adding to the opponent's carelessness. Moment. The sword light flashed across, and the disciple's head fell to the ground. Sul Yang instantly completed the cross-border instant kill. Do you really think that someone at the peak of Zozang can kill me? Sul Yang looked at the corpse of the Badian sect disciple with a calm expression, without sadness or joy. With his current cultivation methods, Sul Yang is invincible in the same realm. Is there anyone else who wants to compete with me, Tiandao sect, for an opportunity? Sul Yang glanced at everyone present, and the sword in his hand emitted a cold light. Everyone in the room was shocked by Sul Yang, and looked at Sul Yang in awe. Immediately, the disciples of Badian sect could only watch Sul Yang snatch the opportunity away, but they could only leave in despair. After returning to Tiandao sect, before Sul Yang could enter the house, someone sent news that the sect leader's wife had summoned him. Then, Sul Yang then went to Tan Kinja's room. Walking into the beautiful woman's boudoir and seeing Tan Kinja again, Sul Yang immediately discovered that his fairy girlfriend's master was different. When she first met Tan Kinja acted like an aloof, cold, and arrogant queen. Her eyes looking at her were filled with indifference and indifference. But this time, the look in her eyes when she looked at him was less cold and more tender and confused. See this. Sul Yang instantly felt something was wrong. It's over, Tan Kinja was definitely affected by that dream. No, we can't go on like this, otherwise, something will happen sooner or later. Thinking of this, Sul Yang coughed lightly. Madam, I wonder where Benjao is now. Is she still safe? The reason why Sul Yang mentioned Qin Benjao was to remind Tan Kinja of his relationship with her in the name of caring about his girlfriend. Volume 1 Chapter 46 The Dark History of Fairies, the beautiful woman who gradually became abnormal. Sul Yang's reminder seemed to have an effect. Tan Kinja immediately returned to her previous cool posture and said, "Don't worry, Benjao will not be in danger." While talking, Tan Kinja also observed Sul Yang. Sure enough, he was exactly the same as the Ale Yang in his dream. Only, the young man in front of him is more mature than Ale Yang. In a few years, will Ale Yang become like this? Halfway through the thought, Tan Kinja suddenly woke up. No, Sul Yang is his apprentice's man. As a master, it is not good for a man to observe his disciple like this. Looking away, Tan Kinja said in an indifferent voice, "Do you think there is anything wrong with this provocation?" After thinking for a moment, Suliang shook his head. The opportunity does not appear in a fixed place, and it is the boundary of the section it is normal for the disciples of the Badian sect to find out. As for the disciple who provoked me, his cultivation level is stronger than all the disciples present. He must not have used all his strength before, so the intelligence error may not be intentional. After hearing Suliang's analysis, Tan Kinja nodded. Indeed. This provocation seemed like someone was setting it up, but after thinking about it carefully, I couldn't see any problems. As a result, Tan Kinja and Suliang stopped worrying about this. Tan Kinja said, "Let this matter pass as it is for the time being. I will protect your safety in the dark. You don't have to worry." After hearing this, Suliang immediately thanked him and said, "If that's the case, then thank you, madam." However, facing Suliang's thank you, Tan Kinja said out of nowhere, "Why, just one word of thanks is enough." These words directly confused Suliang. "What the hell, what else do you want from me? Madam, please wake up. You are my girlfriend's master. Do you know that your attitude is very dangerous?" Even Tan Kinja herself was stunned. Why did I suddenly say such frivolous words? For a moment, the atmosphere suddenly became silent. After a while, Tan Kinja felt that she should explain something. But before she could speak, Suliang took the initiative to explain, "Madam, did you speak just now? I didn't hear anything." He didn't expect that his resistant attitude would make Tan Kinja feel a little unhappy. He was so gentle to his disciples, even gentle to some disciples. Why was Suliang so cold to him? There are even some dislikes that are avoided. Suliang's attitude made Tan Kinja feel a little frustrated in her self-esteem. Then, under the influence of pride, Tan Kinja simply said, "That's all, you can stay with me for a while. It just so happens that you can also tell me about your past." Suliang blinked, feeling very helpless. How could I leave for such an honest and upright reason? "Madam, do you know that something will happen if this continues?" In desperation, Suliang was forced to start talking. But unexpectedly, Tan Kinja interrupted Suliang, "You are too far away. Just come closer and sit next to her." But Suliang felt a little embarrassed. Tan Kinja looked at him calmly, "I am your girlfriend's master. Do you mind if you get closer to me? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 39. What you said makes sense, how could I refuse? Suliang sighed in his heart and had no choice but to sit closer. Immediately, Suliang began to tell, "When I first met Benjao looked cold and noble, making people afraid to approach her. But if you have been in contact with Benjao for a long time, you will find that Benjao is actually a natural idiot and has no common sense in many places." Tan Kinja on the side listened to Suliang's story and nodded repeatedly, expressing her deep agreement. Then, these two people, strangely enough, had a common topic. Suliang couldn't help but smile. "When I was injured, Benjao held me in her arms when she was feeding me, but she didn't feel at all that this kind of contact was too close for a friend. Later, when she took me to her place to recuperate, she held me in her arms and paraded through the section. In fact, she never thought about such an impact." Tan Kinja nodded repeatedly and said, "This girl was like this when she was a child. She was a complete little fool. This girl could hit her even if she walked. After I helped her up, she pretended to be cool and not cry. But in fact, her eyes were red, so she insisted that she didn't need my comfort. When I hold her in my arms, this girl will still bend her head." Listening to Tan Kinja's narration, Suliang's mind immediately flashed a picture of a trumpet Qin Benjao with red eyes and a straight face saying that she was fine. It can be said that it is quite picturesque. Aju. After leaving the sect, Qin Benjao suddenly sneezed as she was on her way. She looked up blankly and looked ahead, feeling a chill on her back. A very unpleasant feeling arose in her heart, but she couldn't explain the reason. At this moment, the white-haired fairy never expected that her dark history would be exposed by her own man and her master. Within Tiandao sect, Qin Benjao opened the topic, and Suliang and Tan Kinja, who had a great conversation, started a heated discussion around the white-haired fairy. And as the atmosphere became more and more lively, the distance between the two people couldn't help but become much closer. Looking at this strange yet familiar beautiful face in front of him, the memory of the dream came to mind. Suliang couldn't help but feel in a trance. The familiar name in the dream was naturally called out by him, sister. Moment. The warm atmosphere between the two fell silent. And Suliang suddenly woke up. What did I just say? This name is just a shout in The Sims. Now if you say it out loud, something will happen. Suliang, Suliang, how could you be so careless? Thinking in his mind, Suliang hurriedly admitted his mistake. Madam, don't blame me, I accidentally called you by the wrong name. When he raised his head, he saw that at this moment, the coldness on Tan Kinja's beautiful face had dissipated a lot, and instead, a touch of bright red appeared, adding to the charm. It doesn't matter, I don't care. Tan Kinja shook her head, and then asked curiously, Suliang, do you think my appearance is not old? The moment Suliang heard this question, he was stunned. This is a gift. Regardless of whether you answer yes or no, something will happen. If you don't answer it, you will become a thief. If you answer it, you will be kicked out, right? Is it to gain favor or to gain disfavor? After struggling for a long time, Suliang finally decided to follow his heart. Madam's appearance is indeed unparalleled in the world, she is really beautiful. After saying this, Suliang breathed a sigh of relief. Your answer should be pretty good, right? Although I agree, he is a very gentleman and polite after all, and he has paid great attention to restraint. In this way, nothing should happen, right? He raised his head and looked at the sky outside. Seeing that the sky was getting darker, Suliang stood up and said goodbye. It's getting late, madam, so Suliang will leave first. Unexpectedly, Tan Kinja said, why don't you just stay and have a meal? This, isn't it necessary? Suliang refused. How? Tan Kinja began to doubt, besides my apprentice, do you have anyone else outside? Otherwise, why are you leaving in a hurry? I'm leaving in a hurry because there are others. I was afraid that I would be sorry for your apprentice. Suliang was extremely helpless, but in the end, he decided to stay. In that case, I'll bother madam. Fourth update, the 3 days of Dragon Boat Festival are so fun and exciting. I'm offering a bounty for more updates this month. I will get one update for every 50 monthly votes. Can I pass 1,000 votes this month and let me add more updates until I die? Finally, my friend is here for the first time, so I can help with some suggestions. I wanted to use the heroine as a tool, but I ended up liking her so much. After traveling through the villain, he will become a stepping stone for the protagonist. Fortunately, if you give him a chance, you can get critical hit compensation. The better the binding object, the higher the critical hit multiplier. So Suche set his sights on the female protagonists. But why are they still unwilling to accept it? With no other choice, Suche had no choice but to submit documents, asking the lonely empress to meow like a cat, the beautiful and mature enchantress to dance, the fairy sisters to act as maids, the cold and charming sect leader to help warm her feet, and the cat demon emperor to stroke her tail. It doesn't matter whether you do it or not, as long as you accept it. You successfully send a piece of phoenix blood, triggering 1,000 times critical hit compensation, and obtain the 1,000-year True Phoenix Blood Essence. Just when Suche was enjoying the critical hit feedback comfortably, he didn't notice that the heroine's eyes were becoming more and more satisfied. Interested in supporting Volume 1 Chapter 47 From now on, you call me sister. Seeing that Suliang agreed, Tan Kinja quickly ordered her servants to cook a table full of food. On the dinner table, the cold feeling on Tan Kinja's beautiful face has disappeared a lot, her expression has become softer, and even her majestic and cold aura has changed somewhat. Suliang looked at Tan Kinja and saw that this cold and beautiful woman showed a very rare gentle posture. Coupled with her beautiful face and voluptuous figure, she was even more inexplicably attractive. For a moment, both Suliang and Suliang felt lost and close to each other for a moment. When Suliang was lost in thought, Tan Kinja picked up a piece of food and put it in Suliang's bowl. Try this, it tastes good. Although there is no smile on Tan Kinja's face, her soft expression and gentle movements can make people very heartwarming. Thank you, ma'am. Suliang smiled and thanked him, then lowered his head and ate, getting along very harmoniously. As time went by, Tan Kinja became more proactive and enthusiastic towards Suliang. Tan Kinja picked up some food and put it into her mouth, chewing it slowly. When she raised her head, she saw the stains on the corners of Suliang's mouth. Immediately, putting down the chopsticks in her hands, Tan Kinja took out a handkerchief, put it gently to Suliang's mouth, and wiped it gently. There are still a lot of things, so you should eat more slowly. You won't even know if there are oil stains on your mouth. Suliang smiled awkwardly. Madam, the food here is too delicious. Don't blame me for not paying attention for a moment. The movements between the two became more and more intimate, but they got along very naturally. Even Suliang didn't realize that there was something wrong with the two of them at this moment. And just then, outside the door of Tan Kinja's room, Chang Sheng, the director of Tiandao sect, happened to pass by. Hearing the movement in the room, Ren Changsheng was stunned for a moment, and then looked into the room. At a glance, Tan Kinja and Suliang were getting along harmoniously in the room. Is there anyone who can get along with Kinja so harmoniously? Thinking in his mind, Ren Changsheng's eyes clearly showed envy. But no one could notice that the jealousy hidden deep in his envious eyes disappeared in an instant. But why? Can't this person be myself? His fists were slightly clenched, but in just a moment, Ren Changsheng returned to his original state, and greeted him very naturally through the door. Kinja, good evening. Are these meals to your liking? Hearing Ren Changsheng's voice, Tan Kinja immediately turned her attention. But it was completely different from when he treated Suliang. At this moment, Tan Kinja's attitude suddenly became cold, and her cold and majestic posture appeared again. What are you doing here? Tan Kinja's voice was cold and indifferent. This attitude is completely different from when he treated Suliang. Suliang on the side felt his heart tremble when he saw Tan Kinja changing his attitude so naturally and being so cold. Women are so terrible. Even if it's really just a marriage in name only, you shouldn't treat your husband like this, right? Fortunately, his fairy girlfriend truly loves him and would definitely be reluctant to treat him like this. Tisk tisk, I don't know what the sect leader was thinking at the beginning, but he was actually willing to marry Tan Kinja. Yes. The master of my fairy girlfriend is also a wife. Regardless of whether they are in love or not, the sect master and Tan Kinja are indeed husband and wife. And now, he was behaving intimately with Tan Kinja in front of the sect master. This. It seems more like the husband's current crime. His. Think about it carefully, this gameplay is so exciting. And just when Suliang was thinking wildly, Ren Changsheng on the other side didn't care at all about Tan Kinja's attitude towards him. I'm just passing by, don't worry Kinja. Ren Changsheng said, and then left with a smile. Looking at Ren Changsheng's leaving figure, Suliang felt a little suspicious. Seeing his wife getting along well with other men and behaving intimately, and not even the slightest bit angry. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 40. Isn't this sect leader too much of a good person? It's hard to believe that there are such people in this world. There must be something fishy about this sect leader. After all, love that is licked to the extreme is undoubtedly twisted. Maybe the sect leader has already been twisted? Immediately, Suliang remembered the systematic evaluation and the relationship between the two people he had seen with his own eyes. There was deep curiosity in his heart. How did these two people get married? This way of getting along does not look like a couple at all. Soon, Suliang ate through a table of food. After having enough wine and food, and having people clear away the leftovers on the table, Suliang said respectfully, "Since the meal is over, Suliang will leave." Hearing this, Tan Kinja felt some reluctance in her heart. She and Suliang get along extremely harmoniously. This is a feeling they haven't had in a long time. There is always a feeling that there is still something unfinished, and she really doesn't want to let Suliang leave now. The scene in the dream suddenly appeared in front of her. Looking at the face that was very similar to Suliang's, Tan Kinja couldn't help but said, "Suliang, how about I recognize you as my brother?" Hearing this, Suliang's whole body went numb. Madam, are you too deeply involved in the drama? That's just a dream, wake up." This is his girlfriend's master. He should be called mother-in-law. How could he be her brother? If he really agrees, should his girlfriend call him uncle from now on? My girlfriend is my niece series. I am my uncle series. Is this ridiculous? Then Suliang resisted. This, madam has a noble status, and she is Master Benjao. This kid is really beyond her reach. However, faced with Suliang's evasion, Tan Kinja didn't give him a chance at all. "I know you are in trouble, but it's okay. You can just talk about it. In front of others, you still call me as usual, but when no one is around, just call me Sister Tan." "Madam, is this really inappropriate?" Suliang's face froze and he didn't know what expression to put on. He opened his mouth and wanted to refuse. But before he could say anything, he saw Tan Kinja's beautiful eyes looking straight at him, and a powerful aura suddenly descended on him. "What, are you unwilling? How dare I not be willing to do so?" Feeling the pressure from Tan Kinja, Suliang had no choice but to agree. "Why wouldn't you want to?" Being able to become Madam's younger brother is something Suliang can only dream of. "That's very good." Tan Kinja seemed satisfied and nodded. "There is no one here now. Should I change my title?" "It's true." Suliang nodded hurriedly, but when he looked at the beautiful face in front of him, the thought "this is his girlfriend, master" lingered in his mind. No matter what, he couldn't shout out Sister Tan. "Why, you don't want to call me that?" Tan Kinja looked at Suliang expressionlessly. "It's okay, there's no rush. We have plenty of time tonight. When you call us out, you can go back." The words fell. Tan Kinja leaned on the back of the chair, her slender white legs were raised elegantly, and her jade feet were flawless, swinging gently, making people feel the urge to be stepped on. Just like that, the cold and beautiful woman waited quietly, waiting for Suliang to call out that title. Volume 1 Chapter 48 As long as we become siblings, we will never make mistakes. Poor young Suliang was trained by a cold and beautiful woman. At this moment, Tan Kinja finally showed her dark side as a queen. But Suliang wished she didn't show it. "How to call your mother-in-law sister?" Waiting online, quite urgent. Looking at Tan Kinja who was looking at him calmly, Suliang wanted to cry without tears. No matter what, he couldn't say that shameful name. But as time passed, a quarter of an hour passed, but Tan Kinja still didn't react at all. To be clear, he wanted to hear Suliang call him that name, otherwise, he really wasn't going to let Suliang go. Without any choice. After brewing for a long time, Suliang called out, "Ten, Sister Ten." As soon as the words came out of his mouth, Suliang collapsed completely. "It's over, I really call my girlfriend Shizun my sister. And I was forced to call out by my girlfriend master." For a moment, a sense of humiliation emerged from the bottom of his heart. And listening to Suliang's familiar name. In Tan Kinja's mind, the vague picture from the dream emerged again. She remembered very clearly that in that memory, the boy named Liang was the elder sister, and the younger sister followed her, shouting tirelessly. This moment, the young man's figure gradually overlapped with that of Suliang in front of him. Very rarely, Tan Kinja lost her mind. After waiting for a moment, but seeing no new movements from Tan Kinja, Suliang cautiously shouted, "Tan, Sister Tan." Tan Kinja immediately came back to her senses, blinked, and waved, "Go back, I'm tired." Yes. Suliang felt as if he had been granted amnesty. He couldn't stay with his fairy girlfriend master for a second. So, after saluting and saying goodbye, Suliang left immediately. Then, Tan Kinja was the only one left in the room. When Suliang left completely, his figure had disappeared and could no longer be seen. Tan Kinja couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on her face. Like, it's really too similar. Suliang. Regardless of her appearance, she still sounds like a sister. He was almost exactly the same as the shot boy in his dream. What exactly is going on? Could it be that there are really almost identical existences in this world? Or? Tan Kinja thought carefully in her heart, but finally calmed down. But whenever she thinks of Suliang, she thinks of Suliang's voice as Sister Tan. Tan Kinja couldn't help but want to get close to him. It was as if, in a dream, the demon Kinja couldn't help but get close to the young man Liang. And a feeling of guilt arose from the bottom of her heart. It was as if the things Kinja owed to Liang in the dream were real, and they were all transferred to Suliang by Tan Kinja. Instinctively, Tan Kinja wanted to compensate him. She wanted to do everything she could to compensate Suliang to the greatest extent. This feeling was so strong that Tan Kinja could not help but get close to Suliang just now, and now she could not help but want to do something for Suliang. This idea of guilt and compensation, like an imprint on the soul, has almost become Tan Kinja's instinct, and it has also made Tan Kinja's rationality uncontrollable for the first time in her life. But Tan Kinja didn't understand that even if she was really into the drama, the influence of the dream should have disappeared when she was awake. As for Suliang, he only looked a little like Liang. After all, Liang was the person in the dream. Why does she feel this way about Suliang? Suliang, what's going on? Thinking of this, Tan Kinja felt even more curious about Suliang. Isn't it time to investigate Suliang more deeply? But Suliang was asked by Yao'er to take care of him after all. If Yao'er knew about my investigation of Suliang, wouldn't it be? Tan Kinja whispered, but in the middle of her words, she suddenly stopped. The instructions her disciple gave her before leaving appeared in her mind. Yes. Yao'er asked herself to take good care of Suliang. But is this how you take care of yourself? As a master, it makes no sense to behave like this with a man who is his disciple. Thinking of her previous closeness and training with Suliang, Tan Kinja felt an inexplicable sense of guilt and shame in her heart. But Suliang, Liang. At this moment, Tan Kinja's cold look had mostly disappeared. She was biting her lips. Her beautiful face was full of tangled colors. At a glance, she looked very charming. After struggling for a moment, Tan Kinja suddenly relaxed. She has already thought of a very legitimate excuse for herself. After all. But my disciple asked me to take care of Suliang. he is just a man who takes care of his apprentice. Sooner or later, he will become a family. Even if he is closer, so what? As for the sibling relationship, after confirming the relationship between brother and sister first, the two of them will not make mistakes. I, Tankinja, have a clear conscience. It was late at night after going out, and Chin Benjeo finally found a place to rest.